Batman the Imposter, issue 2, Mattson Tomlin writing with Andrea Sorrentino on art. We raved about issue 1 of this, and I suspect we're going to do something similar with issue 2.
Yeah, maybe not as much, because this kind of felt hit a little bit of bumps, I feel, with the story. But it's hard to be mad when you're looking at the Sorrentino art and how well how cinematic Sorrentino can be. Just the fight sequences in this one, because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it uses the Leslie Tompkins therapy sessions again as a framing device, and we see her even talking to Bruce as a kid, presumably one of the first times she ever met him, when he was an angry little kid. We get a sense that the Alfred of this world actually gets scared away because he couldn't put up with Bruce's shit.
not much of a fan of that, because I feel like Alfred's always Bruce's conscience, and I don't like the idea of a Bruce without an Alfred. Maybe
that's like part of what the concept of this story is, though, is that
it could be.
Bruce is the way he is in this particular Batman because he doesn't have an Alfred that stuck by him.
Right, but I don't know. He still comes off very much as the Bruce that's familiar later. There's not a lot of drawbacks to that,
because Leslie's starting to fill that role.
Maybe. I was waiting for that to be like the butler that quit is how we get Alfred, right? They need that guy almost in the Earth One way where Alfred was brought in as like a security expert, but seeing this traumatized kid who just saw his parents murdered in front of him, he decides he's going to be this guy's guardian. And I was kind of hoping something along these lines of how we're going to get this Alfred, and then he just takes off, and we never see this Alfred again. So that's a weird story quibble, but
Elseworld stuff. I'm ready to roll with it. Basically, so yeah, Bruce keeps showing up later and later to these therapy sessions, but he does show up. He shows up bloody and bruised, and he's investigating the imposter. Of course, he broke into Wesker's building, which was that 2-page layout and.
So good.
But yeah, like the classic, like the back cape all sprawled out on the black and white background image, with all the little panels in front with him with the grappling gun. But yeah, it's him breaking in and beating up some security guards, but he makes a mistake. He doesn't hit hard enough, as he points out. So again, it's an early Batman. He's making mistakes, but ultimately, because Wesker's got this like surveillance system where he's like tapped into the entire city's security and like cameras and all that. He wants access to it, so that's what he's here for. All of this art, though, this fight with him and the security guards, that ends with like he's getting, because he jumps out the window, but you see the one guard's like hand grab the cape, and then the next page he's being strangled, and he has to like cut off part of his own cape with his little blade. All that really good stuff, but he ends up, it's almost like a horror story. He ends up in wherever like the ventriloquist his hangout is.
The living quarters. Wesker says later.
Where he's been building all of these like dolls and puppets, and we actually get like a scene of him like holding Scarface, and like it's like, hey, ask him to kill your dad. Ask him to kill your dad. So he asks Batman to kill his father, and Batman of course just leaves and tells Leslie to. But the art and all this is great. Like it's super moody, super like dark, and like just a little bit macabre and nasty.
It's creepy. It's the way that it's doing with the lack of color, because it's only black, white, and red, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's just, and he's holding Scarface not in the way that we're used to, but almost cradling him.
Yeah, if the only critique I really have is that because of this, it's like a black background and all the panels take place in these diamond panels. Is that the red diamonds made me think of Harley Quinn. that was the only. I thought, is this a Harley Quinn thing? No, it's not. It's just Scarface and ventriloquist.
Yeah, it's just a way that I feel like that Sorrentino decided to plot out how the flow was going to go. But I thought Harley as well.
Yeah.
So.
But then we cut back to what the cliffhanger the first book was, which is Detective Wong coming to speak to Bruce, and he kind of like has a good answer for everything. He talks about how he's not really that connected to the company. You'll look into it. I'll tell the accountants you're coming, and kind of fobs her off, but he reveals that, like it's sort of really casually just in like a panel where he's looking up her history, and it mentions that she saw her parents be killed, much like Bruce did. And he kind of says, "Oh, I've got an in here. Like I can talk to her and get more information about the imposter," because he's coming up a bit short. So the middle part of the book is very much him getting close to Detective Wong and effectively flirting with her, asking for information, and even kind of it seems like he does kind of fall for her, and it's in that Bruce way where he's still going to use her for information, but he does seem to have feelings for her.
Mm-hmm. Well, he recognizes that she still is a really good detective, without just needing to use her, like that she kind of figured out he's Batman with very minimal evidence. And now he just has to lead her away from that. Yeah, I did like the buy in bulk line. Like she knocks on the door and he says something about wanting some chai tea, and he goes, "Yeah, I buy everything in bulk," which then comes into play when he's talking about all the motorcycles that went missing.
Yeah, because he basically he plants an excuse in the paperwork, which is that a container went missing. But it's like we have so much stuff coming in that one container's like a bit of a write off. It's not a police matter. But he even does this like really coy thing with her where like she says, "Oh, you thought we had a bunch in common because we both saw our parents be murdered," and he's like, "Well, no, because we both like dropped out of Yale."
Yeah, we both dropped out of the Ivy League. And she's like, she is mortified.
It's so good, and because that's what he meant. Like he intentionally did this because this is a bonding moment, and it's very manipulative. But he does ask her out and says, "You want to talk about our time in Brazil?" And I love how it switches to like a stark white background as we see them holding hands and being on a date, and she's got the red jacket on. So you've got the black and white with her in red, and all the bats flying around. That 2-page spread is absolutely beautiful, and it kind of shows it's almost like the bats all flying all around them. We talk about butterflies in the stomach when you feel love. Yeah. So the idea for him it's bats. It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, Bruce has bats in his belfry.
His belly free.
Yeah, there you go, belly free.
But yeah, so when she's asleep though, he like steals her like laptop and looks up some stuff and not
good behavior on a first date. That's for sure.
But he gets like information on the imposter, and it leads him ultimately to which, by the way, actually, just as I'm skipping ahead here to get to this next important part, there's a sign in the street at one point when he's walking through the street saying Gotham Film Studios coming soon. Is that just like a wink and a nod because the writer of the next movie is doing this?
I think so. So I looked this up too. He did an uncredited rewrite. Or not uncredited. He's not credited on The Batman like I thought he was. No, but he did work on it. So maybe, I'm not sure. Like I'm pretty sure. Oh, because a lot of this feels like it's set in that world. It's just slightly off. It's very gritty from what we've seen from trailers and whatnot. So, but maybe you're right. Maybe he's writing the next one, right?
I think this is far too specific at this point to be connected to the new movie. Like,
and this is what made me, once we started getting to her backstory and some of the other stuff that happened here, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is kind of. It's the essence of the new movie, but this is its own story.
Yeah. But to show that they're very equally matched in terms of skills in a lot of ways, like Wong basically has the same idea that he did, where she goes to Wesker, he's demanding, "Hey, that Batman broke into my building, I want something done about it." He's like, "Look, if you want us to catch him, like, give me access to your surveillance network." So she's effectively using the same resources that he is. She has the same idea to track down. I mean, she doesn't realize she's looking for an imposter, of course. She thinks she's just looking for the Batman. But we get this thing where they both track down Ratcatcher's like van. Like they see footage of this imposter with Ratcatcher, and it's like, okay, so they said that obviously that was a cliffhanger at the end of last issue. This Ratcatcher dude. I said, you know what I mean? Like we know who the Ratcatcher is, but like in terms of this book, it was this guy who's becoming the Ratcatcher. He was brought on as an ally to this imposter. And I love the panel here actually of like Batman driving the bike past her in the car, And it felt like a really epic kind of moment because they're both racing to the same location. And they get there. Batman, of course, there's a whole scene here. It's wonderful action where they're in the car with Ratcatcher. The police have apprehended him, and like Wong to her partner's like, "Hey, watch out for bat ears." And there's just this great sequence of like Batman throwing like a smoke bomb at the car, and like she gets out, and it all goes white because of the smoke. And the only color on the page is a little bit of red on her face from blood that she cut her head in the impact. But this is like Batman like stealing Ratcatcher from the police, and she actually has him at gunpoint, and he actually fight her a little bit. And it feels like a big showdown because the book's done a really good job of treating her as an equal to Batman in terms of skill, in terms of how important she is. So this feels like two of our main characters facing off. It really feels I guess it's akin as anything else to like Batman and Gordon in year one. It feels like the two leads and the two important characters are finally coming face to face. I mean, they technically already have. She doesn't know that, but as Batman, it's the first time they're coming face to face. So it feels like a really big moment, and the book crescendos really well to it, and it's gorgeous to look at as well. So Batman tortures Ratcatcher a bit to get some information.
Just that sequence, though, because we got such the introduction to Ratcatcher last time and how much sympathy they built, because you're just like, this guy is like legit just misunderstood. And then as he's basically doing the dunk take treatment where he's dunking his head under and then asking him questions. When he doesn't get the answer he wants, it's back under, and Ratcatcher's like, I don't understand, I'm your friend. And it's like, this just poor guy, like, you feel
kind of bad for him.
Yeah, because he's mixed up in something that has really nothing to do with him, right? The imposter came to him because of his, he's familiar with the tunnels of Gotham and whatnot, and we through the detective and through Batman, we find out that this has to do with judges.
One in particular, who like all of his cases, like, or not all, but like a lot of his cases got overturned because he got exposed as corrupt. And all the victims, all these criminals that the imposter's been killing have all been people, as Batman puts it here towards the end, he says, this is actually my mess that he's cleaning up, in his way. It's not a way obviously Bruce approves of, but
he's cleaning up the mess, and Gordon is no longer on the police department because he was tied up in it as well because of his dealings with Batman, and that this judge, all his cases basically got thrown out because of the corruption. And that Gordon was working with Batman, so he gets tossed. And so, this imposter is going around as Batman cleaning up this mess. And I thought that was a nice little turn.
Yeah, he gets a lot of that from the stuff that he steals from our computer. Yeah. The ending is basically just Wong's breaking into the evidence locker because she's, as her partner puts it, you're going to war because she's like stealing the heavy duty machine guns. And it ends in this really dark, because we spoke about how some of the pages are like ultra white with just like the black highlights or shadows to like create the high contrast image. This is the opposite. This is them in shadows doing something they're not supposed to. When she says, because when he asked the question, are you planning to go to war? When she says, yeah, pretty much, she coming, like she is in so much shadow on that page. Like, a bit of her cheek and her nose is really all you see. And her partner, who feels like he's a bit less of a noble cop, kind of smirks. And that's kind of that's the cliffhanger. That's where we end on. It feels like
her permission. He just got permission from her to go crack some heads.
It also feels like her encounter with Batman and Batman actually like kicking her down and like making her feel small by telling her to stay down. Because and obviously we know that Batman's saying that because he doesn't want to fight her. He wants her to just back down so he can do what he's doing. But like from her, you can kind of get how that might motivate her to be like, no, I'm gonna like not only. Does this interaction feel belittling to her? She also thinks this guy is going around killing people, and she has to stop him. So, like, she doesn't know it's two separate people. She doesn't know it's an imposter. So,
it's just Batman.
Yeah. So this, I mean, I love this issue. This was another fantastic issue.
The whole romancing angle was something I wasn't expecting, and it kind of made it a little bit choppy. In the fact that has a similar background to him too, I thought it's a little bit on the nose, but we'll see where that goes. But it's still very good. Like the story, once we got to the part with the judges and how this deals with This is not just a Batman without Alfred. It's also Batman without Gordon, and that changes things as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, I'm excited to see. I actually know. Is this 3 or 4 books? I can't remember. I'm hoping it's 4 because I feel like we've got 2 books left of material.
Yeah, I think it's 4. Let me check as I'm.
But if there's only 1 left, then damn, I can't believe we only have like 1/3 left. But the art is gorgeous throughout, which is no surprise, consistent with the first one. But I think it's done a really good job with this Detective Wong character, where she feels super important in this story. It does a good job of building her up and making her feel that, you know, the comparisons to Batman feel very valid. I think because we're treating her as, you know, she's a new character, we've introduced her. They're not trying to put her into Batman's past. They're just giving her a similar backstory.
Right.
That is far more cool with me than what they do a lot of the times with, like, oh, so and so was in Batman's past and is connected to what happened to him. Yeah, Ghostmaker being the more recent
it is
example.
only 3 issues.
So
there's
only 3?
One more.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to find out who the imposter is, and I'm excited for the true head-to-head, because I'm assuming she's going to figure out who Batman is by the end. She's going to see it's Bruce.
Right.
And I'm excited to see what the resolution to that is. Yeah, I guess the only complaint I have is that it feels like there's so much story potential left to do that I don't know how much, you know, what we're doing in this final. Actually, I know it's going to be 50 pages, but and again, 50 pages flew in. This was not a hard read at all. The craft on display here and the flow of the book is just exceptional. So, yeah. It's an exploration of Batman. I'm super into it. So, all right, what are you rating Batman the Imposter issue 2?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Honest, I'm putting it on 9. That's 2 9s so far.